I was a kid, our basement was the source of my irrational fear. Picture this: a vast, dimly lit space with a looming L-shaped couch, positioned ominously in the center. At one end stood a bulky wooden support column, casting eerie shadows across the room, and in front of the couch, a relic from another era. A massive old box TV, adorned with tangled cords connecting to our beloved video game consoles. The layout of the basement was like a maze, with a circular path snaking around the furniture, a booth and table nestled in one corner, an ancient bar in another, guarding the doorway to the laundry room. And, closest to the stairs, my dad's little workout sanctuary. We only had access to the first floor and the basement, as the upstairs was rented out to an elderly tenant named Ruth. Being the youngest of 3 siblings, I often found myself alone in that unsettling space. My older brothers were out on play dates, and my dad was likely at work, with only my mom upstairs. The basement felt even more isolating, the creaky door, refusing to stay open, served as a constant reminder of the barrier between me and the safety of the main floor. Alone on that gray, plushy couch, every little noise sent shivers down my spine. The familiar hum of the laundry machine and the clacking of the boiler were the usual suspects. But this time, it was different. A distinct thud, followed by a couple of bounces, echoed from the direction of the laundry room. I froze, my heart racing as adrenaline flooded my veins. Without hesitation, I bolted upstairs, my frantic footsteps echoing in the silence. Breathless, I burst into the kitchen, blurting out to my mom that there was someone in the basement. Her calm demeanor steadied my nerves as she listened to my panicked recount. With a reassuring smile, she accompanied me back downstairs. Her presence, a comforting shield against the unknown, opening the door to the laundry room. She flicked on the light and inspected the room briefly before declaring it empty. Relief washed over me as she ushered me back to my video games, assuring me that I was safe. Yet, as darkness descended outside, the basement transformed into a realm of terror. The feeble light from the small windows failed to penetrate the blackness, leaving me to confront my fears in the encompassing darkness. I mustered up the courage to venture back into the basement, despite my earlier fright. The ominous thud of the heater kicking to life reverberated through the room, drowning out any lingering doubts. But as I turned, my blood ran cold. The laundry room door, once shut tight, now stood ominously ajar. With trembling hands, I approached the gaping darkness, my heart hammering in my chest. The abyss within seemed to swallow any hint of light, leaving me to confront my fear in its purest form. The thought of flicking on the light filled me with dread. So instead, I opted to slam the door shut, desperate to banish whatever lurked within back into the shadows. Back on the safety of the couch, my pulse gradually slowed, a false sense of security washing over me. But that fleeting moment of calm shattered when a gravelly voice pierced the silence from behind. "My God, how you've grown," it rasped, sending shivers down my spine. Paralyzed with fear, I turned to face the source of the voice, my mind struggling to comprehend the surreal scene before me. A gaunt figure slouched in the corner booth, his features twisted in a grotesque semblance of familiarity. His words hung in the air, dripping with a sinister implication. Before I could react, he rose from his seat, his movements slow and deliberate, closing the distance between us with each faltering step. His ominous words echoed in my mind as panic surged through me. Your mother won't let me see you guys. With a primal scream, I bolted for the stairs, my terror driving me to seek refuge in the safety of the kitchen above. Frantically, I recounted the chilling encounter to my mother, her face drained of color as she grasped the gravity of the situation. In a blur of panic and confusion, the authorities were summoned, their arrival a beacon of hope in the midst of chaos. As they descended into the depths of the basement, I clung to my mother, seeking solace in her embrace. The truth revealed was a nightmare come to life. The intruder lurking in the shadows was none other than my estranged uncle, a dark figure from our past. His presence, a chilling reminder of the horrors we had long sought to forget. Haunted by the specter of his crimes, he was swiftly apprehended, destined to face justice once more. But the scars he left behind would linger, a chilling reminder of the darkness that dwells within us all. As the days passed and Halloween loomed on the horizon, the memory of that harrowing night lingered like a ghostly specter, casting a pall over our once joyful celebrations. And amidst the festivities, a lingering unease hung in the air, a reminder that sometimes the true monsters are closer than we dare to. The backyard provided a sanctuary of safety during our intense games of hide and seek, offering ample space to evade capture, with the entire house at our disposal, save for our aunt and uncle's private quarters. The possibilities for hiding spots seemed endless. One particularly intriguing location was Aunt Melissa's fashion room, a treasure trove of creativity and style. Mannequins adorned with her latest designs stood sentinel, their stoic forms draped in an array of garments. As I slipped into the room, I couldn't resist the urge to add a playful twist to my hiding spot. Grabbing a couple of blankets, I concocted a clever ruse, using one to conceal myself under a nearby desk, and the other to shroud a mannequin, transforming it into a convincing decoy. It was a harmless prank, I thought, a light-hearted surprise for whoever dared to uncover my hiding place. As the minutes stretched into eternity, the anticipation mounted, punctuated only by the distant echoes of laughter from the main room. Time seemed to stand still as I lay in wait, my excitement tempered by a growing sense of unease. When Chase finally declared the end of the game, I emerged from my hiding spot, eager to partake in the festivities. But amidst the revelry and feasting, a nagging thought tugged at the corners of my mind. Returning to the fashion room, I was met with a chilling sight. The blanket that had once cloaked the mannequin now concealed something altogether more sinister. With a sinking feeling in my gut, I approached cautiously, the air thick with an unfamiliar scent. As I drew closer, the truth dawned on me with horrifying clarity. Beneath the blanket lay a figure, its presence a stark contrast to the lifeless mannequins that surrounded it. The sound of labored breathing filled the room, mingling with the musty odor that hung in the air. Panic surged through me as I grappled with the realization that there was someone else in the room, someone who did not belong. My voice trembled as I called out, but there was no response, only the ominous silence of the room. With each passing moment, the feeling of unease intensified. A primal instinct warning me of impending danger. And as I stood frozen in fear, I knew that I was not alone in the darkness of Aunt Melissa's fashion room. The revelation of the figure's bare feet, stark against the backdrop of the blanket, sent a chill down my spine. In a room filled with familiar faces, the presence of someone so out of place was jarring. Hastily, I retreated, my mind reeling with the implications of what I had seen. Outside, amidst the chaos of panicked voices and frantic movements, I sought refuge in the familiarity of family. Urgently, I relayed my discovery to my uncle, the gravity of the situation evident in his furrowed brow. With a sense of urgency, he rallied a few brave souls to investigate, their footsteps echoing through the silent halls. As we descended into the depths of the basement, each step filled with trepidation, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that gnawed at my insides. The fashion room loomed ahead, its shadowy interior a stark contrast to the festive atmosphere above. But when we arrived, the room lay empty, the blanket discarded on the floor as if mocking our efforts. The figure that had haunted my nightmares had vanished without a trace, leaving only questions in its wake. Desperate to prove the validity of my claims, I searched every corner of the house alongside my family, my heart pounding with each empty room we encountered. Yet, despite our thorough efforts, there was no sign of the intruder, no trace of the mysterious presence that had gripped us with fear. In the aftermath of the ordeal, as the police combed through the house in search of answers, I couldn't shake the feeling of disbelief that lingered like a shadow. Had it all been a figment of my imagination? A trick of the mind brought on by the darkness of the basement? Or had something truly sinister outside by the window? The realization sent a shiver down my spine. The darkness of the basement suddenly feeling suffocating, Kennedy's expression mirrored my own unease as we exchanged anxious glances, the truth sinking in with chilling clarity. In a hushed whisper, Kennedy called out to our cousins, her voice tinged with urgency, but instead of reassurance, their dismissive laughter only fueled our growing sense of dread. How could they be so nonchalant in the face of such palpable fear? Desperate to prove the validity of our claims, I pointed towards the window, my hand trembling as I gestured towards the ominous figure lurking outside. But even as Sam and Evan emerged from their hiding spot, their presence did little to assuage our mounting terror. As they brushed off our concerns with flimsy explanations, my heart sank. It was clear that they didn't share our sense of urgency, their dismissive attitude only serving to deepen my apprehension. With a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, I knew that we were on our own. Reluctantly, I made my way upstairs, my footsteps heavy with apprehension. But as I entered the living room, a wave of relief washed over me. Everyone was there, just as I had left them, their laughter and chatter filling the room with warmth. But beneath the facade of normalcy, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered like a shadow. Returning to the basement, I knew that I had to confront the truth, no matter how terrifying it may be. With a trembling voice, I relayed my findings to Kennedy and our cousins, the gravity of the situation finally sinking in. Together, we faced the darkness, our hearts pounding in unison as we braced ourselves for whatever lurked beyond the safety of the basement door. And as we ventured into the unknown, I couldn't help but wonder what other secrets lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. Down there, the news sent a ripple of fear through the room, each of us grappling with the unsettling reality of what had just transpired. Despite my uncle's assurances, the memory of that chilling smile lingered like a nightmare, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond the safety of our home. As the night wore on, the incident cast a shadow over our festivities. The once joyous atmosphere now tainted by fear and uncertainty. We kept the doors locked tight, the lingering sense of unease serving as a grim reminder of our vulnerability. In the days that followed, the memory of that night haunted me, a relentless specter that refused to be banished. Questions swirled in my mind, each one more unsettling than the last. Who was the mysterious figure that had invaded our home, and what had they wanted from us? Despite our best efforts to move on, the fear lingered, casting a pall over our once peaceful existence. And though time may have dulled the sharp edges of our terror, the memory of that fateful night would forever be etched in our minds, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks just beyond the safety of our own doorstep. The aftermath of that terrifying night left a lasting impact on all of us. The sense of safety and security we once took for granted was shattered, replaced by a lingering fear that refused to be quelled. As we huddled together with our mothers, seeking solace in their comforting embrace, the gravity of what had occurred began to sink in. The knowledge that a stranger had invaded our home, lurking in the shadows of the basement, sent shivers down my spine. The discovery of footprints in the snow outside only served to confirm our worst fears. The evidence of the intruder's presence, a chilling reminder of the danger that had come knocking at our door. Yet, despite the palpable sense of unease that hung in the air, there was a sense of relief that no harm had befallen us. In the days and weeks that followed, the memory of that harrowing night continued to haunt me, casting a long shadow over my thoughts and actions. The simple act of descending into a basement, once a mundane task, now filled me with a sense of dread that I couldn't shake. Even as I grew older, the fear remained, a constant companion that followed me wherever I went. And though I may have physically distanced myself from that basement, the psychological scars it left behind continued to linger, a stark reminder of the fragility of safety and the ever-present threat of the unknown. And as I reflect on those events now, years later, the memory of that night still sends a chill down my spine, a sobering reminder of the darkness that dwells within us all. As I reflect on the events of that fateful night, I'm reminded of the fragility of safety and the stark reality of the unknown. The memory of the intruder in my grandfather's basement serves as a haunting reminder that danger can lurk in the most unexpected places, shattering the illusion of security we often take for granted. Though time may have dulled the sharp edges of fear, the impact of that night continues to linger, a constant presence in the back of my mind. The simple act of descending into a basement, once mundane, now fills me with a sense of unease that I struggle to shake. Yet, even in the face of fear, there is resilience. Despite the lingering trauma, I've learned to navigate the world with a heightened awareness, a newfound appreciation for the importance of vigilance and caution. And as I move forward, I carry with me the lessons learned from that night. A reminder to always trust my instincts and never underestimate the darkness that lurks just beyond the safety of our own doorstep. For in the end, it's our ability to confront our fears head on that allows us to emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before.